you want to be successful? Do you want to grow your business? Do you want to dominate the day? Then you're going to need big skip energy. Ned Watson, welcome to Energy Podcast. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since I've seen your face live. You know, like, I don't know, 30 years.
Yeah, definitely. Probably not since high school.
No, but it's been before that, man. So, because, I moved away from Athens in 8th grade. Right? So that's what it was, man. That's what it was. So it's good to see you. I'm glad we've been able to keep touch a little bit via social media. I'm excited to have you on the show. So everybody, this is Ned Watson. You wouldn't know it by his voice. He's actually from Australia, but moved to Georgia, when he was a wee lad.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But I'm going to let Ned introduce himself because you know what? Let's be honest. I can't do him any justice here.
Hey, y'all. I'm Ned. When I was 9 years old, we moved from Perth, Western Australia to Athens, Georgia for my dad's job. And Skip, well, he was my neighbor. And we'd go over there and we just thought it was heaven because, like, in his household, people be drinking soda all the time.
That's right, man.
So we'd
different world
and drinking, because that wasn't a normal thing for us in Australia. And so, I was a grade ahead of him. We'd hang out, and it was a fun area at the time,
for sure.
And then we moved, and like geographically, the houses were very close, but because there's a creek between us, it actually takes a lot of time to get between the two of them.
Yeah, because if you're going by car, you had to go all the way around, right? But I don't know. There's probably some sort of symbolism there with the creek splitting up with the other two. But yeah, man. So, and I used to come over to your house, for after school stuff till my mom would come get me. Yeah. It's funny you bring up the Cokes and stuff at my house. I remember Sunny Delight being the drink of choice. I used to love drinking that stuff because I didn't have that at my house. And so I was like, man, that's great. That's good stuff. Isn't it funny, the weird random things that we recall? Yeah. So, but Ned, okay. So the reason that you're on here, as much as the listeners would love to hear us reminisce about our childhood, is that, you are currently in Japan, correct?
Yep. I've been here 2010.
All right. So I guess let's start with a little bit of background. What took you to Japan?
Well, when I was in high school, I started studying Japanese, and then I went over to Japan for 3 months, and I really liked it. I had a Japanese girlfriend and whatnot, and I came over to Japan from Athens. And it kind of, Tokyo, it just blew my mind. And, I kept on studying, and I guess I always felt like I was going to end up living in Japan. And I got married and moved over here. The relationship didn't work out, but, I'm trying to make the most of my life here, I guess.
Yeah.
It's when I first came to Japan, I was shocked at how expensive things were. And now it's crazy cheap. And
well, that leads us into one of the things I want to talk to you about, man. So Business Insider recently published an article featuring none other than you.
Yep.
And I want you to talk to me a little bit about that because, as you know, with my mortgage and real estate background, this actually has to do, well, I was going to say indirectly, but really directly with cost of living and real estate there.
Yeah.
Give the listeners an idea of what the article is about and kind of just tell us that story a little bit, man.
So, Business Insider, they saw them writing an article about like people who had bought like abandoned houses in Japan. Yeah. I was like, well, I've done that, and at the bottom, the guy's like, hey, have you done this? Send me a message. And so I did. I said, I bought myself a cheap house in the Japanese countryside, and I fucking love it. So
I love it.
Mind if we do an interview? And I was like, sure. So, I told him about the process that I had to go through in order to buy the house, how I looked for it, any issues that I encountered and things like that. Because I think the more stories you have out there of people making decisions like this, the more people can start to think of, hey, maybe this is something that I can do too. I tell people that, in America, your real estate is most likely your most valuable asset.
That's correct. Yeah.
And if you like the idea of living in Japan, how can you leverage that asset in the future in order to live life in Japan? So, you got to do your regular life in America for now, but your kids will get older and your house will be paid off, and you'd be like, we can go to Japan and get a cheap house in the countryside. And then you like, when you're in Japan, you just rent out your house for a few months or something like that, and help pay for everything.
Yeah.
Because obviously the value of houses in America seems like it's just going to keep going up.
Oh yeah, even amongst the market we're in now, it just keeps increasing. So I think there's a couple of different takeaways from that particular story. How you were able to live. It was, I think, $45,000. Was that right?
Well, that would be at the current exchange rate. So I got back in the end of 2018. Very good timing to be buying a house in the middle of nowhere for 6.6 million yen. So at the time, it was closer to 100 yen, 10 for a dollar. And then like with insurance and real estate fees and just some other money, I spent $75,000 total at the time. But, if anything, I don't know if somebody else would have bought this house around that time. They said it had been vacant for 2 years. But I think now these types of houses, people are starting to see the value in them because of what happened during Corona times.
Yeah.
If you look at the way that most real estate in Japan is, the houses are very close together, like less than a meter apart in a lot of urban situations. And so I just felt like if anything bad happened, the Japanese countryside is probably one of the safest places to be. Like if there's and then also being near the airport if something really bad happens. Technically I could walk to the airport in an hour and a half or something like that, maybe.
Yeah. If it really went down.
Sometimes there was a while back, we had a typhoon that knocked out the electricity. And so it stranded a lot of people at the airport because they couldn't take the trains. But if I had friends there that were stranded, but we could take the back roads there, you could go pick them up and stuff like that. I like having people come over. So like a few times this has happened where I live at a train depot, or there's a big train depot at my station. So the very last train of the night ends up here. Like it stops. So usually I'm the only person on that train because nobody really lives at this station. And so sometimes I'll get that train, be out drinking, be a good boy and take the last train home. And I'll see people on there and they get off and they're like, they thought the train was going to Tokyo.
Yeah. Like, wait, so you're getting off here?
Yeah, they didn't. They're like, well, I'll just get on this train anyway because, it's going towards the direction that I need to go in. But they don't realize that it's only going 2 stops and there's nothing around. Like there's not even a convenience store at this station.
Yeah. So they're like, this guy's drunk. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's like, no, this is my stop.
And then I'll talk to the people who seem lost now. I've had situations where they say, "Oh, just come sleep on my couch till the morning. You don't need to get a taxi. My place is safe."
Well, let me ask you this, man, because you mentioned affordable housing. Obviously, it's an issue there. It's an issue here. Hell, people can even argue about what the definition of affordable housing is, right? But talk to me just a little bit. Give the listeners just an idea of the overall real estate market in Japan. I'm not expecting you to give me a macroeconomic dissertation here, but just give a good kind of synopsis of it.
Okay, well, you have urban areas which are growing, and in Tokyo, the average price of new construction is about 100 million yen for an apartment, but that's because they're building a lot of high-end stuff, which traditionally hasn't been a thing. And so like 100 million yen, like is what, like $800,000 or so, $700,000.
I'm going to find out. Google it right now.
Yeah. And it's like, if I'm going at a 150 to the dollar, but then you have a lot of people that are building houses. Most of the time, the houses that people build are around $200,000, maybe, just depending on the plot of land. And then you got a lot of old apartments that are used. You can buy into those, and most of that is going to depend on location. But I would think maybe a decent apartment. Most people's housing, if you're an average, Japanese family is going to be between 200 and 300,000. And they're going to get that on a 30 or 35-year loan. Interest rates probably around 1.5% with maybe a 5% down payment. However, and then as far as rentals are concerned, Japan has lots of very small but livable apartments that you can get for super cheap. Like, so one out where I am would be like $200 a month. In Tokyo, maybe $600 or $700 a month. And they're just little apartments designed for one person to live in. The Japanese people don't really embrace the concept of roommates.
I'm good with that.
And then, you have like just places that are dying. So I went on a drive the other day. We went to the very bottom of Fuda, which is the prefecture that I live in Japan. It's basically on the other side of the Tokyo Bay. And we drove down there and then drove all the way back up the coast on the east side. And just looking at like how much abandoned stuff there is kind of amazing. And then because it's in a beach area, you'll see these tall high rises that stick out like a sore thumb. And those are probably like resort apartment buildings that were built in the boom times of Japan, which being like between the 70s and then the early 90s. And those things were probably sold at very high prices at the time and have just devalued like crazy.
Yeah, true.
Because, the people that would have wanted them and could have enjoyed them when they were new, well, 30 and 40 years have passed since then. So they're dead.
I guess we shouldn't laugh about that, but it's true.
You're an old Japanese person now. Even if you're alive, maybe you don't want to be at the beach. There's, living.
Yeah, you may have different priorities and values at that point.
But because the Japanese population is shrinking, who are you going to sell it to? So these people are left with these apartments that they paid a lot of money for back in the day. They're still paying monthly fees on them and they're not using them. So like those types of places, I think you could get for absolutely nothing. Like,
well, they're falling. I'm kind of curious because if they're not being utilized, they're kind of falling to the wayside, still collecting fees on them, man. What are those fees getting used for?
Roads. Japan has very good roads.
Yeah.
Lots of
other infrastructure needs, huh? So one thing that I'm kind of curious about that I think you could really lend some knowledge on is, in America, obviously, it's like the American dream. You got to own a home, right? Since the 1950s, it's been ingrained in our. But in Japan, is it really that badge of honor to own a home, or is renting more prevalent? Or kind of talk to me about that dynamic a little bit.
If you're going to have a family, probably the wife would want to own a proper home. Like in Japanese relationships, generally the wife controls the finances and makes these types of decisions. So yeah, whatever she wants, she's going to get. But I think for a lot of other people, owning a home or an apartment maybe can be a burden for a lot of folks, and they'd rather focus on their hobby rather than, have a big home or whatever.
Than sinking their finances and resources into that. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I think people here generally see where they live as more of like a utility rather than an extension of their personality. You don't really have people come hang out at your house in Japan.
Yeah. You go out and do things with them.
Yeah, you go out and do things. So I was talking to this one guy and he's like, he's friends with people who own like supercars and stuff. And he's like, he drives a Lamborghini every day, but he also lives in a little 1-bedroom apartment because, that's his place to sleep. And, Japanese small apartments are generally designed in such a way that you have access to all the basics, and then you just determine how much space you actually need. Like if you're just going to have a bed and a TV and you're happy with that, you can live in a tiny spot for next to nothing. And I think that's one of the things that I would love to see happen in the American real estate market. I think we need more small apartment complexes. And if you look at like, we're from Athens, right? And you look at what they're building. they've been building forever, which is these 4 people living in one apartment,
With a
Jack and
common area.
Jill,
Yeah.
common area and stuff like that. But they actually take up a lot more space than they need to for each person.
Yeah, exactly. But they've latched onto that concept of the roommate, like you said a minute ago. That's not a thing over in Japan, but they figure that they can maybe get by on rent. Yeah, let's go. It's a higher rent. That's all right. They're splitting it 4 ways. That's not a big deal.
But that it made sense when the places weren't designed for that. Because it's like, oh, let's just get a house and we'll live there as roommates. But now it's like just designed for 4 people to live together. But they're not designing anything that I think is in line with what I would be comfortable with living in Japan. Well, just for example, right? Let me see if I can put a picture up here.
All right.
Start screen share this one.
Go.
Yeah, because he don't know much about American culture. I live with a Sri Lankan dude article, and I was like, oh, if he watched Forrest Gump, he'd probably learn a lot about American history. He wouldn't learn it correct.
Yeah, he learned one version of it anyway.
Weird things, but I was like, because we were watching Coming to America the other day.
Oh, that's great.
And he enjoyed that movie. So I just pulled up a real estate site to show you, okay, this is what I would rent if I wanted to be in Tokyo. And so this is just their interface. You pick which station you want. I basically know.
That's fascinating. That's all based off of that. It's so interesting.
Oh, you could do it in a bunch of different ways, and everybody has access to the same information. So, but
right.
Yeah, for a lot of people, the train station is the most important thing.
Gotta get where you need to be.
Yeah, so I'm going to go to Okubo, it's right above Juku, which is one of the major stations in Japan, in Tokyo. Also, this part right here is basically saying this is how much it costs on average for one person to live in that station. So and this is the Yamanote line, which is the ring that goes around Tokyo. So you can see that basically this is 100,000 yen, which is like $700. So that's basically saying this is in the centralist parts of Tokyo. This is what things cost. But then if we go down here, we can see that things are cheaper because these are this is in Chiba. So let me see, what's a good line? Oh, yeah. So this one goes up north, and you can see the further you go north, the cheaper it gets.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, no, just the further away you get away from Tokyo Station, the cheaper it gets, So,
right, yeah.
But you can see, okay, well, here is that's 5 mon a month. Mon means 10,000. That's how we describe things in Japanese. So that's $400 a month, and you got a direct line to Tokyo Station. Mind you, it's in the middle of nowhere, and it takes forever to get to Tokyo on there.
So I'm kind of curious, what's the size of that living space?
Okay, so that's what I'm going to show you now, right? I wanted to show you the one that I would consider something that I could live in.
Okay.
So then over here on the left, you've got all the conditions that you want to meet.
Sure, yeah.
I want to be within 15 minutes walking distance of the station, right? And then I want the bathroom and the toilet to be separate. To me, that's important. In Japan, they have something that's called a unit bath. I can show you probably in this one. Yep. This is your unit bath, right? So it's a thing. But, oh, wait, no, the toilet's not in it. Wow, okay. Let's check another one then. Yeah, this one's got, oh, no, let's see if we can find one. But the unit baths are a bit of an older thing. Mm-hmm. And so newer construction generally doesn't have them. And then for me, I think I would get something like this. This is 80,000 yen a month. So about $550, right? It's 5 tatami size. So let's see. I
was going to say, you got to put that in square footage for my crew.
44, 17, 18 square feet.
You're right.
No, so I'm saying this one right here, well, one tatami is 18 square feet.
Okay.
So maybe this room right here is what, 90 square feet? Yeah. That seems small, right?
Yep.
That's
So
probably like,
so it's not even like, so basically it's a 9.5 foot by 9.5 foot. I know it's rectangular there, but
yeah, basically you got that. And it looks like this, right? And then you've got a loft above, which is 3.5. And so this place also, it doesn't have a Japanese style bathtub. It just has a shower room. So, I don't really need to take long baths.
Come on, there. You like sitting back, glass of wine, some bubble bath.
Okay, and so this is just showing you what's around. But like to me, this is a place where, if I don't mind sleeping in the loft, I can set up like a computer space there and a couch and just crawl up into bed or sleep on the couch. And I think that's fine. You got a little built-in kitchen here. You got a place to put your fridge, and then a place you put your washing machine. Because usually washing machines don't come with apartments in Japan. You actually have to buy your own, but they're pretty cheap. And like these places, you'll have to pay like 1 month's deposit. Actually, it's gift money in this one. You got 3,000 yen, like monthly fee that's on top of your rent for management. And this one says
right here. Yeah.
So it's 15 square meters total. I'll look that up and put it in feet for you.
Yeah.
161 square feet.
Tiny.
Yep. But
isn't that interesting though? Because that's
a very good location.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's not about the actual living space and the prestige of the living space. It's about your ability to get to things, like you said a minute ago. It's about your ability to get to things that are higher priority than sinking all of your resources into an actual abode.
Yeah, because if you're not going to do much there, what's the point? At least you have the option of getting something cheap. So for somebody that doesn't want to own a home and is happy being alone and not having people over there and doesn't really have much stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Because, I think in America, it's much easier to accumulate stuff that's big.
Well, yeah, you're going to have stuff to fit the space you're in.
Whereas, here people don't seem to need as much. I'm just going to show you real quick apartments near where I live, just to show you how cheap they can be. Yeah.
Like, you struck gold here.
Yeah, this is $150 a month.
Wow.
It's 20 square meters, so a bit bigger.
Oh, yes, it's massive.
This is like a 2-story building, probably on the second floor. They redid it actually, so it doesn't look bad.
No, it doesn't look bad at all.
Oh, well, this part looks pretty crap. Like that's not the best. And you got to put in your own, like,
your own range or whatever to cook with.
Yeah, you put in your own range. This one has the dreaded unit bath, right? That I don't like. So you got your toilet here, right? And you see this sink, and then this sink right next to it. That's where you're taking your shower. So
there is no room for more than one person to do anything in there either.
Yeah, so it's like you can't really be living with a significant other in a place like that, and because one day they'll be in the shower and you eat something wrong, and you're gonna be like, I gotta go use the toilet.
It's bound to happen, and then you know what? All bets are off after that happens.
And then so you'll go in there, and you'll be like, you gotta get out of the shower because I think I'm dropping something nasty in here, and then it's like. Now she's not going to want to go back and
shaving my legs.
Well, she's in the middle of washing her hair, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I just got to go. Then, she's going to go out and be naked. And you might be in there for a while with a shampoo in her hair. And it's not, she's not going to want to come back in.
Yeah, it's got to let that
shower when you're done. So.
Oh, goodness. That's funny.
That's why I say, because I'm a bit of a fake ladies man. If you get an apartment, make sure you get one with the bath and the toilet separate. And so you can set those options on the left here. So these are the things that are important for people, based on ranking. And the top one is, I want the bathroom and the toilet to be separate. Some people think it's bad to live on the first floor because it's dangerous. Because a lot of people they will hang dry their clothes.
Yeah.
And so women don't want to live on the first floor because somebody's going to steal their underwear. And then, just if it's going to have a parking lot, free internet, But so
Well, how are the neighborhoods that these are in? I mean, speaking of safety, I mean, are these considered to be, overall decent, safe places?
everywhere in Japan is safe. Like,
Yeah, I had a feeling you might say that.
like Japan should be afraid of me. I'm the one.
Are you Godzilla?
In a way, yeah. I'm just looking at these because I got some friends hanging around and like seeing how far this is from the station. So this was actually in the same part of town as me, like the same
Mhm.
town part name. I'm just trying to figure out where it is exactly.
Hmm.
Oh, look, like that farming outside. But this is, it's got a little, this is about 275 a month. It's got a little security camera. It seems like a nice little apartment, actually.
Yeah, if I'm a single guy, why not save some cash?
Yeah. And then focus on your hobby. So, and then I'll show you more of like the newer built stuff in Tokyo.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, let's have a look at this because and for those of y'all that aren't on YouTube watching us and you're listening, what we're seeing is exactly like you said a second ago. It's small apartments, but it's ideal for the differences in the society and culture where they value different things than we do here.
I just pulled up like the new construction that they do in Tokyo, and a lot of it is very high end now because
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to build medium priced apartments in Tokyo anymore because so many of those already exist, right?
Okay.
The demand for that is satisfied. What doesn't exist is more of the high end featured stuff. So this place is, a big tower.
Looks like you would expect whenever someone says a luxury apartment.
Yeah, but it's also kind of in a funny place, which is it's for car people. But this is $1 and $2 million US
Okay.
for 2 or 3 bedroom apartments, and so
Okay.
this one says square meters and 106 square meters. So that's be more like 1,100 square foot apartment, and
Yeah.
then we probably see the layout of it.
Which makes that makes a lot of sense because for that price range, if you were to get here a similar condo in a major metropolitan area at that price point, it'd probably be in the closer to the 2,500 to 3,000 square foot range. But with the population density where it is, that's just not feasible there. Plus, obviously, different priorities, like we said a second ago.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at this one right here to see if we can find some pictures of what it has. But it's like, these ones have the fancy entryway,
Yeah.
lounge, tower. Like this is what, probably somebody who has like a combined income of about $200,000 a year, they'd probably be able to buy this one. I just want to see the loan simulator, right? So they have the calculator here, and you can see down the bottom, it's like
The rates are
year fixed. Those are really cheap. So it's like how much did you make last year? So we'll put 18. Say we made like $140,000.
right.
And then we put down 100 grand, 35, and then we'll do it over 30 years. So we'll be paid off. So this is same month is what you might be paying for that. 5,000. Here's somebody that doesn't mind putting half your money into buying an apartment like that. The rest of your money
that's much more the American philosophy of doing it, where your housing to income ratio can go up to, before taxes are taken out, in most cases can go up to about essentially 45%.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I think in Japan, it's also feasible for people to put that a bit higher simply because you don't have to live with a car.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people don't take into the expense of how much it costs to own to own a car.
Even if it's free and clear, you still have all kinds of expense. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's, people kind of have different expenses in Japan. And then also Japan is, just for the cost of living in Japan is a lot cheaper than people imagine. So yeah, like I could see somebody who's making, about 150 grand a year if they're single, being able to afford a place like this. But, you have to understand that's like on the very high end of wages in Japan. Like the average salary in Japan is $3,500 a month. So, This would be somebody working 4 or 5 times the average salary in Japan.
Definitely.
But, you can work, if you're an IT person, you can easily make that kind of money here if you're working for a foreign company. Do you want to, spend your life savings or a big bulk of your money on a nice apartment in Tokyo? Mind you, it's going to be a baller apartment. And this thing was great, right?
Yeah.
But that's a $2 million apartment.
Yeah.
And
I'd be interested to learn, the percentage of people that occupy those that are not Japanese natives as opposed to, foreigners, just because of the differences in culture like that. They may not have as big of a predilection to not dumping the money into it,
Well, I think the foreigners that you'd see is probably like Chinese foreigners. So you wouldn't notice them. A lot of it depends on what part of Tokyo it is as well. But these things are all being built in kind of fancy areas. But there's, like any city, there's, various districts where, it's considered fashionable to live or.
Sure.
And these are places where they build good stuff, because it's kind of hard to acquire the land. Like this big old thing. This is on land that was built into Tokyo Bay. So there was nothing ever there to begin with. And that's where you'll see a lot of these big construction take place.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you look at it, like it's a little bit of a haul to the train station, right? And that train station doesn't go anywhere good. So it's like, if you want to go to Tokyo Station, you want to be in a place where you can get a direct line to Tokyo Station. Having to transfer on some line sucks. So I wouldn't want to live out here, but these are probably car people though.
Car people. Those bastards.
Well, it's, there's most of America, you're forced to be a car person. Like
you're forced to. There's just no good mass transit system for a multitude of reasons. So, yeah.
And where I live is very good if you're a car person. But if you're not a car person, I can still walk 15 minutes to the convenience store. I can walk, 11 minutes to the train station and then get on that train, go to the next station. They have a great shopping mall there. It's got the best grocery store I've been to in Japan. It's got like a nice home furnishing store. It's got clothing, got some food court. Like it's a nice little.
All within walking distance.
Yeah, that area is a planned community. So it's actually really nice to live next to that. The only thing is everything there is new. So it doesn't really have any sort of places with character.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Have been around for a long time.
A very sterile feel to it then, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't, these new places, you'll go to them and they don't feel very Japanese. They just feel like somewhere that it can exist anywhere else in the world.
Generic, yeah.
It's got, Japanese writing to it. But the big difference is, I think, just having these things next to train stations can make things so much more convenient for people if they don't have to drive. But most people around here would have a car because it's just, there's so many good stores you can go to if you can drive, but if you can't drive, they're out of the way. So I consider this to be a place for car people.
Okay. So here's the question though. Are you a car person as well as a train person?
Well, they won't give me a damn driver's license in this country. So
I don't blame them for that. I tell you what.
But I have a driver, so it don't matter.
It's hilarious. I really appreciate you taking some time to do it. This was fascinating, especially the screen share here with this information, throwing this out here. This is really fascinating stuff.
No, like if y'all want to know more about real estate in Japan in general, I've actually done a decent amount of research over the years, but like I can show people those resort properties because there's Niseko. A lot of Australian tourists are investing up in there. And, if you want to find a place out in the countryside like I did, I can show you that process. Like, I just want people to think, hey, I can buy some real estate in Japan. I don't, it's not expensive. It can be expensive if I want it to be. And then, do something with it.
They need to sign you up for the Department of Tourism over there.
Well, it's like, people got to make plans in their life. But I think if I'm an old retired person in America and I want to get the most value out of the biggest asset that I have, you got to move somewhere that's cheap. You got to think of how do you get out of America and where can you go? And I think Japan is actually a possibility for a lot of people. They just have to figure out, okay, what is it that I'm actually going to do there in the future in order to be able to live there, run a small business, set up a school, set up a consulting company.
So many retirees and people of that age want to go travel and see it. And this is actually a different take on that. It's like, hey, well, why don't you just come over here and actually purchase something? It's not only an investment, but you get to do what you want to do anyway.
And if you spend 3 months here and you rent out your house back home, like, if you're going to get like $5 or $6 a month in rent, I don't know how much things are like. But
yeah, it depends. Yeah.
But people so my cost of living here is about $1,500 a month because I don't eat out really. Most of my money goes to something called Strong Zero, which is a 9%.
Is that an alcoholic beverage, a beer of sorts
that you can buy 24 hours a day at the convenience store, and you can walk there?
That's a good thing.
Yeah. And if you can't walk there, it means you probably had enough anyway.
So. I was going to say, yeah, you can walk, you can stumble, or you're done.
Yeah, but those are like $1.50 a piece at the convenience. If you buy, it's 500 milliliters of like 9% alcohol and like just artificial everything to like minimize the calories.
Ned, you're over there drinking like a Schlitz malt liquor.
Oh yeah, they're the best deal around, and like
you're drinking 40s.
I wish I could drink 40s.
Oh goodness gracious!
But I don't drink a lot of beer anymore. But like, yeah, so if you're somebody that just like enjoys cooking, gardening, you can totally do that and like spend the spring in Japan. And then if you got like family members, tell them, hey, you should go. If you want to go on vacation in Japan, one of the most expensive things in most people's vacation itinerary is going to be staying at a hotel. Yeah. So, if you were to come to Japan, I'd say, hey, come stay at Ned and Breakfast, right?
Mm-hmm. Sounds like that's not the first time you've said that.
Yeah, no, it's Ned and Breakfast. You get some Ned, and then he'll make you breakfast. And I'm actually
say that's a different sales pitch. Yeah.
Well, there's also the Ned and Breakfast that is the romantic version, but no, I'm not going to pay for that.
No. You got to pay me.
But so in Tokyo, you might be spending $100 a night on a hotel, but here all you do is you got to spend about $5 on the train to get there and $5 to get back in an hour of your time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times taking the trains is an adventure anyway. So so if somebody were to buy some property in Japan that they didn't use much, but they know that they have some friends or relatives who might enjoy it when they go visit Japan, that means it just makes the entire trip cheaper. And, as you get older in life, you will find yourself with more time that you can spend on doing the things that you enjoy.
That's one of life's biggest ironies. Work all of our lives. Use the best years to do what we're at least capable.
Because, I visited my parents recently and they've moved to Australia. And then one of the things is for them wanting to, I guess, leave America is Australia has much more walkable cities, and they got they live in Melbourne, and Melbourne has the most expensive tram system in the world, and their real estate is pretty expensive. You know what? You want to know what's funny though? So like my parents got in their nice little building, and it's like a small building, and they had a Christmas party because I went there for Christmas and I helped out, and it's funny because all the people there thought I was like the caterer.
Who's the help over here?
Yeah, like I was hanging out in the lobby. I went outside to have a smoke, and I came back into the lobby, and I saw them setting up for the Christmas party. I was like, "Oh, can I help?" And they're like, "Sure." So, I kept thinking like, "Oh, how should I make this fun for these old people?" Because they're all like old white people, like my parents, and they look even more like my parents than American old white people. Because Australian people, like the sun destroyed their hair in a specific way about it. So I was just like, all these old white people looking like my parents, they found their spot. And I had, it's really nice for them. They actually, they got they live on this giant park. And so it's like, they're finally getting to live in the area that they wanted to live when they first met. but couldn't afford it. And I think that's, that goes back to the thing is like, you work all your life, and then, when you can finally enjoy it, you're old. But so the question is then, where do you want to be old? And see, I I basically live like a retired Japanese person. Like my best friend is an 82-year-old woman who comes over here all the time, cigarettes. And she asks me the same questions over and over again. She likes to know if I eat rice or bread when I have dinner.
Okay.
Yeah,
those are very important questions to ask.
Yeah, she'll ask me that on the regular because she's not that smart, but she just she'll come over here and buy cigarettes from me, right? So we smoke them in the yard. And so I try to make the yard nice for her, put flowers in there and stuff, and we play with the chickens. Yeah, they didn't mention my chickens in the article too, but I got 3 chickens out here. I wanted to get some goats, but I think they would be, that'd be a bit too much of a handful, like for me to be able to go away. But yeah, so the important thing is try to enjoy your money now when you're young, and at least have some plans for how you want to live when you're an old person that don't involve going and living in a home, and I think the best way for any American to achieve that is, start investing in your house. Understand that's going to be your primary asset that will fund the lifestyle you want to live when you retire.
Yeah.
But remember that if you sell it and you stay kind of in the same market that you're in, you're only going to end up having to buy an even more expensive house lifestyle. Yeah. So you got to figure out, okay, where is somewhere that I can go that's going to be cheap, that I can walk? Because if you're an old person and you lose your ability to drive, like you can't see no more or stuff like that, then the only option that you have in most places is just going into a home where they cook the food for you, because you can't participate in the most basic activities
yourself as well.
So, and that's just kind of like urban design that kind of forces people into that lifestyle. And then if you end up in a home, like, it's depressing. You didn't plan on being there. It's, and it's
not by choice,
and it's not like those homes are going to get better or anything like that. And so you might have to start thinking realistically, what other countries can I go to where I can take this money as far as possible and live an amazing life? And so, a lot of people will go like the Philippines or Thailand around here. Because I've been hanging out with Sri Lankans. They're like, oh, you should go live in Sri Lanka. We'll treat you like a king there. And I believe that.
Yeah.
And,
but if you become a warlord over there, if you
or like, there's parts of Africa that I think would be very interesting to go to. And so, potentially a few years down the line, if people are doing themselves good, they'll be sitting on $1 million asset that you can take and either rent it out or sell it. And then you can put that $1 million somewhere else. If you were to put $1 million here in my situation, you somehow overextended, got a good loan, paid it off, the value of your house went up, you got $1 million. You could plop $50,000 of that on a house in Japan, keep the rest in a mutual fund that pays out 8%, right? And then, it's almost $1 million. Do some more remote work, and that 8%, what would be like about 80,000 back a year?
I was going to say, it's the same principle as what's over here. It's just a little bit more scalable, with your cost of financing so much lower, the spread between investment and interest is really beneficial. Right now, in America, you simply don't have that. Rates are a lot higher. The rate of return's higher too on investment, but the spread's just not there. So that's the key,
Well, if you can get yourself to $50,000 in like passive income, that's a very good life in a lot of cases. And
for sure,
most people don't realize that Japan is one of those places where you can easily live on $50,000 a year, because that's the median income.
Yeah.
Of, Tokyo, I would guess. And you don't even have to be retired. You know, you just be like, I made money with my house.
Yeah, there you go.
And bust it out. So I don't know how long you usually do this for, and I know you're going to edit it.
No, I do actually have to end it because guess what? I have another recording coming up in just a second. Yeah, man. So I really do appreciate you coming on here, dude. And you know what? I'm interested to see the reaction from this episode. I think people are going to find it absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's a story that other people don't hear. And if people have questions, they're more than welcome to reach out to me, or they can reach out.
That was going to be my next question. How do folks find you, man?
That's a good question. I probably need to make a website. I don't want to give out my email, but what I would suggest is, if anybody has any specific questions, send them to the show.
And, send them to me. I'll forward them on.
And, I can come answer them with little videos or something.
Yeah, and also on YouTube, you can respond to the comments on there too. So.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. You'll find me in the comments on YouTube, y'all.
Yeah, there you go. There it is.
The other thing is I do live streaming, so they can find me on kick.com/NEDX, and you'll see me ranting about Japan, but I can actually, I got a good setup, so I can take people over the place and show them things. So
nice.
Thanks everybody for having me on the show today. I appreciate it. Hopefully don't be strangers.
I appreciate it, man.